Thank you. Thanks so much for the great introduction. I was coming here and they were saying, Governor, they don't know you're coming. Only a couple people know I'm coming. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. It'll be a nice surprise. But then as we're getting ready to pull in, my guys, the drivers, are like, well, there's a lot of protesters blocking the thing. And I'm like, well, gee, they didn't even know I'm coming in there. You got more protesters than I usually get. I'm jealous. It's great to be back here in Massachusetts. So, I'm born and raised in Florida, but I spent 7 years, as was mentioned, in New England with the education. And I can tell you this, I'm one of the few people in this country who was able to get through both Harvard and Yale and come out more conservative than when he went in. That's not easy to do. And just for the record, all 7 years I was in New England, I rooted for the Red Sox over the Yankees. Now, I know that you don't endorse candidates, you can't endorse me, but I want you to know I endorse what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. As somebody who's fought and won these fights in Florida, I can only think what kind of terrain you have to deal with in Massachusetts when it comes to the political fight. So God bless you all for doing that. We've delivered results, and really that's what matters. First, we're standing as Floridians and as Americans in favor of the state of Israel and their right to defend themselves against terrorist aggression. I was not happy with the lack of urgency displayed by the Biden administration, so yesterday I signed an executive order authorizing emergency rescue operations from Israel for our Floridians who are in Israel, and we are going to be bringing them back to Florida starting tomorrow. We're proud to have stood up for what's right over these last 4 or 5 years when COVID-19 hit and places around this country were closing churches. I signed an executive order saying everybody has a right to worship and all churches have a right to be open in the state of Florida. We have enacted universal school choice in our state. Every parent can send their kids to the school of their choice, including for religious education. I'm the father of a 6'5" and 3-year-old girl, 6'5", and I want my 2 girls to have the same opportunities to compete in sports as my son does. And so I was one of the first governors to sign legislation protecting women's sports in the state of Florida. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You have people swimming on the men's team for 3 years, then switching to the women's team, and somehow you're the women's national champion? Give me a break. So we stood up for what was right and got the job done. We also saw what was happening with the youth and with some of these physicians trying to force things like puberty blockers and sex change operations. And so in the state of Florida, we have banned those practices. We are not allowing the mutilation of minors. We've also led the nation in securing parents' rights when it comes to education. Parents have the fundamental right to direct the education and upbringing of their children, and that means a number of things. One, it means you as a parent have a right to know what's being taught in your kid's school, curriculum transparency. And if there are materials there that are violating state standards or that are not age appropriate, you have a right to blow the whistle on that. So parents in Florida have done it. Unfortunately, there have been pornographic books that have been put into very early grades. They blow the whistle on it. It gets taken out. Now, what the media will say is, oh, that's banning books. Florida is banning books. First of all, there's not a single book that's been banned in Florida. You can buy any book you want as an adult. But that doesn't mean every book is appropriate for a 4th grader or a 5th grader. So I did a press conference probably about 9 months ago, and we called it Exposing the Book Ban Hoax. And instead of me talking at the podium to start, I just played a 2-minute video that showed the images of the books that the parents had objected to. The local news stations who were covering that press conference immediately cut their feed because they said it was too graphic to air on TV. Well, if it's too graphic for the 6 o'clock news, how is it okay for a fifth grade school child? We've done more than any other state to get ideology out of schools. The purpose of schools is education, not indoctrination. We eliminated critical race theory from our K through 12 schools. We're not teaching kids to hate this country or to hate each other, not with taxpayer money. And we even stood up against the left, against the media, and against a company from Central Florida that some of you may have heard of, called Disney, the most powerful company in Florida history, to say it is wrong to be injecting sexuality into the curriculum of elementary school kids. It is wrong to teach a kindergartner that they were born in the wrong body. It's wrong to tell a second grader that their gender is a choice. And so we thought it was important to establish that because, there's a lot of other issues in society. But if we're going to teach our kids from a very young age that they can just switch genders at the drop of a hat, we are not going to succeed as a country. Okay, this is not true that you can change that, and it's showing that there's an agenda that is taking precedence over basic education. So Disney came out against it. A lot of people said, oh, well, the governor's not going to be able to stand on there. They're just too powerful and all that stuff. Well, here I stand. I don't back down. We do what's right, and we made sure. We've also eliminated the so-called pronoun Olympics in our schools. No teachers are allowed to force students to produce pronouns. It's ridiculous, and we're not going to do it, and that gives a lot of people a lot of relief. We have done more than any state to not just fight, but to defeat what I call the woke mind virus. And sometimes people say, oh, woke, all this stuff, don't talk about it, whatever. Listen, we have to have a society rooted in truth. And woke represents a war on the truth. Don't tell me that a man can get pregnant and expect me to accept that. I will not. It's not true. And we can't have a society based on that. But I also know that ideology, when it affects government institutions, when it affects schools, when it affects businesses, it has a corrosive effect on society. We do a lot of battles for religious liberty in Florida, a lot of protections. You guys have a tough fight here. We've seen different things happen. And if someone wants to mention God in a public setting, the left freaks out. They say, you're establishing a religion. The reality is they're the ones that are trying to establish a religion. They want woke ideology to be the religion of this country. And they want you to bend the knee if you believe something that conflicts with that. And that's why you see things like you guys have this thing in Massachusetts where you have these Catholic foster parents that wanted to do the foster care, but because they don't bow down to the gender insanity and the gender ideology that the elites here in this state support, then somehow they're not allowed to participate in a program. That's discrimination, and it is them imposing their left-wing beliefs, substituting for religion, and discriminating on society. So you got to win the war against the woke if you want to be able to have a society that is able to thrive. We fought a lot of fights in Florida, and we've delivered big victories. One of the things I can say about us is, well, one, we don't back down from these fights. What I found is when you stand up for what's right on a lot of these issues, the media is 100% against you. The left-wing groups are 100% against you. A lot of elites in our society, corporate elites, some other elites are against you. But the people are with you. And it's not just Republicans. I mean, parents' rights and education, I have all the working-class Democrat parents. They were with us on that issue. They are with us against woke. We are the majority on all these issues. But what we've done in Florida is we've won those fights, which is important, but we've said, I'm not going to surrender every institution or any institution to the radical left. We're not going to let them control our schools. We've beat the teachers union on all these different issues. We're not going to let things like ESG take over our economy in the state of Florida. No, we took $2 billion out of BlackRock in our pension fund. We banned social credit scores and central bank digital currency. we're not going to let them have control over our bureaucracy. So those are things, winning the fights, not just on a policy level, but on the institutional level, is why the state of Florida is the freest state in all of these United States. So we're proud of that. Now, I'm not giving a campaign speech because I know this is a nonprofit, but I just have to say that one of the reasons I'm running for president is because we've got a lot of problems in this country, and we can't have it that every time all these states do dumb things, people have to up and move to Florida. I can't handle everybody coming to Florida. So we got to have freedom that's going to be spread throughout all the land, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to get the job done. So I appreciate you guys for what you're doing. I know the fight is difficult. As somebody that spent some time in a very hostile environment of Cambridge, Massachusetts, I know it's not easy, but you're doing the right thing, and you have my support. So thank you all, and God bless you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Thank you.